is Aubrey, and I'll be speaking with you guys today about what drug addiction does to your brain. Hopefully none of you are addicted to drugs, but I do believe that we'll all come in contact with people who are addicted to drugs, or maybe already are in contact with people who are addicted to drugs. There are three main points that I'll be discussing. First, how does someone become addicted to drugs? Next, once someone is addicted to drugs, what does it do to their brain? And third, is it a voluntary behavior, drug addiction, and why? So to start off, there's three main parts of the brains that drugs affect. First is the brainstem, which helps you function to stay alive. It controls your breathing, digesting, and your circulating of blood. Next is the limbic system, and this controls all your emotional responses to things. And then there's the cerebral cortex, which affects your five senses, and your forebrain, which is where all your ability to make decisions, plan, and solve problems takes place. The first time that someone takes a drug, in their limbic system, they get this intense, unnatural feeling of pleasure. And what this does to your brain is it tells you that you have an excess amount of dopamine, the neurotransmitter, and so it tells your body to cut off the dopamine. And so now your body seeks out after that drug because without it, you feel no joy, no hope, you just feel lifeless. And so that's how, once this happens, your body tells you to compulsively seek after that drug, and that's how someone becomes addicted. The NIDA website for teens tells you that there's not a way to predict how many times a person needs to take a drug before they become addicted, because each person has a different genetic makeup and their environment plays a key role in this as well. And so with knowing that, what do drugs do to the brain once you become addicted? Drugs are chemicals. And so what this means is that they cause an excessive amount of neurotransmitters or not enough neurotransmitters. And to get specific on 4 drugs, marijuana and heroin, they do the same thing to your brain. They have different consequences and different things pan out in the long run and everything, but as for your brain goes, they both mimic natural neurotransmitters, and this wreaks havoc on your brain because they're not natural. And so cocaine and amphetamine, what they do is they cause an excessive amount of neurotransmitters, and what this does is it tells you that it causes dysfunction in your communication channels. And an example of this would be if Tanya is addicted to drugs and I go up and whisper something in her ear, it's going to sound like I'm screaming on a microphone this close to her face. And that is going to be really annoying. But all drugs affect your limbic system, and what this does, it affects your reward circuit in your limbic system. Are drugs voluntary? For most people, the first time they do drugs, it is voluntary. But once they become addicted, it's no longer voluntary because it impairs your ability to think. And what it does is it affects your reward circuit. And your reward circuit in your brain is what tells you that something is good and it needs to be repeated. Like eating. Whenever you're a young child, you start eating and your brain tells you, this is good, repeat it. And you begin doing it without thinking about it. And that's what happens whenever you do drugs. It gets in your brain and it tells you, this is good, this is pleasurable, this is something that you really want. And so repeat it, keep doing it. And so once it becomes an addiction, it is no longer voluntary. But this is not a completely hopeless situation for people who are addicted to drugs. There is treatment that you can take. Also, what most people don't know is that drug addiction is a brain disease, and it needs to be treated like a brain disease does. You need to take medication for most brain diseases, and you sometimes need to take medication whenever you become addicted to drugs. And there's also, some people are lucky and they can quit drugs cold turkey and then be done with it. Others, they can just go to a rehabilitation center one time and be completely healed from their drug addiction. But for others, they're not so lucky. 5 out of 10 people fail the first time they try to get off drugs because of everything that it does to your brain and everything that it tells you. And so the most important thing is to be hopeful and to stay on top of things. Also, like an example of people failing in drugs, it can just be like someone who has diabetes whenever they have to take insulin shots. If they forget their insulin shots, then that tells your body you're not doing good. You need to start taking them again. You need to get back on top of things. And a drug addict needs to think of things like this too. Like if they mess up, they can just get back up again and just take it again. And so thank you all so much for listening to my speech about drug addiction and what it does to your brain.